So I just wanted to make a quick video showing my Uber kills, a little bit of talking over about each fight, my mindset a little bit. So just thought it'd be something slightly more interesting than just uploading the boss kill video straight up to the channel. So I think this character had like just under 3 days played, nothing too crazy, speedy, fast, but it's mostly just, hey, throw my character at Ubers when I think it's fair to throw it at Ubers. And that's basically what this, video is going to be. Alright, so this is the first Uber boss that I did. Uber Eater, I consider him probably to be the lowest gear requirement, because kind of theoretically he doesn't really have much of an in-range timer. He does get a little bit more difficult as his HP gets lower, but I actually consider him the most scary the first like minute or two, because all he wants to do is spam that auto attack, and that auto attack, if it fully connects, you're pretty much guaranteed to die. It's a hit-based thing, so evasion block. This character has none of that, so that and the Perish, the little die beam, hits like 3 ticks, I think, 3 or 4 ticks, and it pretty much will kill you in 2 ticks. So we have the double topaz flask for that to help blanket the lightning damage from the beam, because sometimes we might have to take a little bit of the damage from it. And then we also go with molten shell, casting damage taken instead of manual casting the molten shell. You can manual cast it, but it will almost always proc on that first tick of the beam unless it's on cooldown. And then the molten shell will also help protect us if we fuck up on dodging his auto attack. So you realistically probably won't be able to dodge every single little tentacle and every single tick of the die beam, so just a little bit of blanketing with the molten shell in case we fuck up. Your flasks will all recharge in the intermission phases with the little laser following you. That thing ticks rapidly, so you're going to get full flash charges really fast if you stand in it for just a tiny bit of time. You got to make sure you're shock immune, so I went with Pantheon, shock immunity, 60% reduction, and then I think I have the Eater craft on the helmet. That's another 40%, so immune to shock. Otherwise, the damage bursts get way too out of control. And then transition phase is pretty scary, especially coming out of it. So you just wanted to pay attention to where the tentacle slams are and just never kind of path there. If there is a ball where those things are pathing, you want to make sure to wait till the tentacles are kind of like on cooldown. So the tentacles slam down, they do damage, and then as they retract, they also do damage, multiple ticks, and that thing will pretty much instantly kill this character if I actually stand in a full, like, retracting tentacle. It does crazy damage. So one thing that when you're coming out of the transition phases, the tentacles typically will slam one more time. You just got to be not jumping around or thinking you can just freely run into the boss, or especially in the middle of the arena. That's like the worst place to be after the end of the transition. Just wait for the tentacles to slam one more time, which they will. And sometimes he'll throw a die beam out. You just kind of need to pay attention to what move he uses first as you come out of the transition phase. If he does die beam, just, drink your flask and get ready to spam chug your life flask. I just kind of like blindly mash them if I run into that situation, which happens once in a while. Basically, this fight is just good movement and patience. There's no real rush to do the fight. So the second Uber boss I did was the Fire Guy, Searing Exarch. Bone Shatter is actually a pretty decent build on this, although it's still really easy to kill yourself on it, because for a couple reasons that I'll go over. But the cleave is really nice for, not lacking DPS, because this fight for a lot of other builds can be DPS check, but Bone Shatter gets Giga Cleave off the Minotaur adds in the intermission phases as they splash on the boss, and vice versa. Basically, effectively just doubling your DPS on 2 targets, which is pretty awesome. So I just kind of go over his abilities. So Annihilation, little laser spam. I think it has like Giga Fire Pin. Don't remember how much, like 15 or something. Could be wrong. It's around 15, I think, though. You do want to tank this because it fully refills your life flask with the entrench node on the passive tree, and then your ruby flask, if they have like any hit charge when you're hit mod, you want those on this fight. So you can sustain your ruby flask, double enkindling, increased effect for mostly for the intermission phase, so we can just kind of like face tank the balls. I'll show you. But the firewall that he puts out, the disintegration, that thing does a crap ton of damage. You definitely can't stand in that, even for more than, like, it can kill you in like just slightly over a full second. It'll kill you if you stand in it. And then with the intermission phase, the little rolling balls, because we are Arctic Armor and we are tankier when we're hitting an ad, getting Fortify, and ramping our life sustain from Bone Shatter on Juggernaut, I just kind of prefer this method instead of dodging. Also, we are a low DPS, like we're 2 million DPS or whatever here. I probably don't have the best luxury to risk just dodging the balls and then coming into the boss and trying to make up that DPS, because you get 2 Minotaur phases in a row sometimes, back to back, and you're going to be hurting for the deeps for sure if that happens. So I just kind of opt in to stay AFK, kind of cycle between the 2 Ruby Flasks, try to keep a 100% uptime, and then I'm using a manual cast on Molten Shell, so it's kind of like I can control when I want to mitigate damage. And we also have Vol Molten Shell, which is good in the intermission phase. If I have no answers, or if I think I'm going to take a lot of damage, I can pop one of these, or, you know, both back to back, whatever. So it's really nice, and we just kind of cleave, and then we go back to Exarch, and we cleave off Exarch. Exarch doesn't like to move. It's on a pretty... I don't even know exactly how it works, but sometimes he just wants to spam range abilities. Sometimes he'll move around a bit, whichever your character is. He'll kind of dash forward, but gotta really respect the arena, and sometimes you just actually can't fucking DPS him. It's pretty awful. But, I mean, if he can't kill you, then, you know, eventually you'll kill him. That's kind of the logic here. The biggest thing that is going to kill you, other than if you just, you know, dramatically, like, mess up and tank incineration or something ridiculous, you just gotta watch the grates. That's the whole fight, basically. If you start bone shedding yourself and you're on a grate, you'll lose all your recovery, because that's what they do. They turn off your recovery and they lower your max fire res. And if you can't recover your HP back, then your bone shedder's going to kill you in like just a couple hits. So you got to be pretty patient with that. But this fight isn't too ridiculous. It's mostly just watch the grates and don't do anything too stupid, basically. Sometimes we sometimes we do manual cast our Molten Shell during the Annihilation with like a Ruby Flask to get our other flasks back up. But this fight, not too hard to meet the damage requirement on Bone Shatter. It's just kind of a survivability check slash don't stand on the grate check. But that's pretty much Exarch. Not too bad of a fight. So Uber Shaper, really only 2 things I would say that are kind of big here to note. The cold pinballs actually got lucky and got an Eternal Damnation, so it kind of hard counters the Eternal or the cold pinballs. I think they pin like 25. It's quite a bit. But if you have a way to counter the cold pin, so in my case, Eternal Damnation, there's some other methods you can use, like converting cold damage into fire and stuff like that. Makes the fight quite trivial. And then the only other thing you really have to worry about is the Uber Shaper Slam, which does a crap ton of physical. I just manual cast my Molten Shell and tank it. I'm not even actually sure if they would one-shot me, but it's probably pretty close to one-shotting me. So we just manual cast our Molten Shell. Degen balls, pretty annoying to avoid. It's just like constantly managing them, but towards the end of the fight you just kind of don't really care. Just kind of drop them wherever. This fight, I would say, is more of a damage requirement than Uber Eater, but it's not really nearly as rippy, I would say. But you do need to have some amount of DPS, but 2 million DPS still was enough on this fight to... I fought harder Uber Shapers in this and some gauntlets, so I was pretty comfortable. So Uber Elder, pretty similar to Uber Shaper, with ball management and then cold pinning balls from Shaper, and then Uber Elder blasting you with his cold damage. I don't believe it pins at all, just pure high damage cold. He has a big wind up between his cold attacks, so you can actively dodge them if you're paying attention or pretty close to Uber Elder. But for the most part, this is kind of what I would call like a priority fight. You're kind of making sure your degen is clean, you're dropping it in proper places, and then you're kind of like cycling in your head like when the next one is going to spawn. I don't remember exactly what the cooldowns are, but it gets faster depending on how far you are into the fight. And then same with the ad spawning, so you don't want those ads. If you don't kill them fast enough, I forget how long, it's like 10-15 seconds, they'll drop a puddle that does a crap ton of physical degen. It's incredibly high damage per second, so it's kind of like ad and ball management takes priority. When those things are taken care of, then you hit whatever boss is active that can be DPS. Typically Shaper first, then Elder, and you kind of just basically play on that rule set the entire fight. Just drop the puddles when you can drop them, and kill the ads when they're up. Sometimes you do have to prioritize things like tanking some damage to make sure you kill the ad fast enough. This would be like maybe I need to make sure I pop a molten shell or pop a molten shell here because I'm using a manual cast on this fight. For a couple reasons. You can totally do cast and damage taken, both work for sure. But I just went with the manual cast so I can tank the slams and control my molten shell whenever I feel like I need to face tank some damage to do some damage. I don't really feel like this fight is typically that difficult. I don't think it's much harder than Uber Shaper, but I mean, if you throw in, say, something like Gauntlet mods, it changes the fight quite a bit. But in general, this fight is pretty straightforward. It's mostly just, like I said, that priority management and then DPSing whichever boss. And we're running the double Sapphire with Enkindling again, and just kind of like cycling between the two so that the incoming damage isn't too out of control. So this little bit of cleave here and there can be nice. You get a little bit of that from Bone Shedder and the melee splash node, but this fight pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. Alright, so Uber Maven, a very unfriendly melee fight, very fun. We go Topaz and Sapphire Flask Enkindled here, because if I remember correctly, and hopefully I do, Maven herself mostly does cold damage. I think her auto attack might actually be lightning, but a lot of the arena stuff, a lot of the balls floating around are lightning damage, and then the Degen Puddles I think are cold damage, and then Cascade of Pain, of course, is a cold pinning cold damage attack. So Sapphire Flask ideally for that, and then Topaz Flask for whenever we gotta, like, what is that attack thing where she goes mine and then all the little balls start chasing you? I believe that's lightning damage. The stand still, you can't get hit by that. It literally means stand still. Best way to play that is just to stand still, wait for a minute, and then find the safe direction to move your character in. Frost Blink over there, Leap Slam, whatever. So I consider this like taking care of things that need to be taken care of as soon as possible. So you don't want to wait too long to drop puddles and running around the arena unless you absolutely have to, or waiting too long to dodge the fireball. You want to start doing that as soon as possible. You want to take care of stuff sooner than later, otherwise, because there's a couple things typically happening, especially later in the fight, you can sometimes have to deal with 2 or 3 things at the same time. So basically just take care of stuff as soon as you have the opportunity to take care of it, and DPS comes last. So sometimes you don't get the DPS for even like a full minute, or like 30 seconds, a full minute, something like that, and so be it. But long as you are playing properly, you're not fucking up, you're breaking your arena, the fight can take as long as it needs to. And then during the memory game part of the fight, you'll get 2 bosses randomly. Sometimes it's best to ignore them, sometimes you can cleave them down real quick. Just kind of depends. Sometimes I could skip them, sometimes I would just pop my cooldowns, cleave them down, take care of that, because kind of like we don't want to deal with that stuff during the up phase ideally, but it can be okay if the bosses don't really do much or aren't too much of a threat. There are some bosses that are just like, honestly, just reset your Maven. Things like the Crimson Township boss, whatever that guy's name is, if I got him, I just honestly, like, I'm probably not even gonna try. That guy does way too much fizz degen or whatever. It's like out of control. But just kind of gotta go with your intuition, kind of make a judgment. But for me, I was pretty lucky to be able to just kind of cleave almost every wave down. So just a little bit of RNG. Then there is the absolute worst part of this fight, the final phase with the beams. Between her attacks that can potentially one-shot you and stand still and all that garbage, your window of opportunity and your patience is going to be fucking tested here, because sometimes you just don't get to really DPS her. She's just not going to fucking let you. She's going to be using some bullshit, and then like your movement has to be extremely precise not to get touched by these beams. If you do get hit by the beams, if you got portals, you should log, and thankfully I think I had all but like I might have used 1 portal up until this point, so I played a little more on the aggressive side because I knew if I touched the beam I could just log out and I'd stop portals, and that's totally fine. Otherwise, just play extremely patient. It's like, it's gonna fucking test your fucking mind. because this shit gets retarded and it takes so long. You're like, if my character is 2 million DPS, genuinely, I'm probably like 400 or 500k DPS in this phase. It's honestly, it might even be less than that. It's, you do not get the attack basically. It's like some 300k DPS or something stupid, like on average. You're just constantly teleporting, using abilities that don't let you get into melee range and all this garbage. It's pretty much the melee dream right here in this last phase. I don't know exactly how long it took me just to beat this last phase alone. I'm wanting to say it was like, honestly, probably 15 minutes just for the last phase alone, maybe even longer than that. That's how stupid it is for melee, but it's just, don't fuck up and play patient and just don't let her kill you. Just don't rush it basically, because if you start trying to rush it, you're probably going to make a mistake. So that's basically the Uber Maven headache fight, so that's that one. Thank you, Ned. Alright, and then we got Uber Awakener. I don't think this fight is particularly too crazy, but he can definitely kill you if you make a mistake. I'm just going to show the last fight here. For whatever reason, this fight wasn't rendering very well with the visuals. It's kind of weird. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But, basically, first thing, because I know this fight's going to take fucking... I don't even know how long this last phase took. It genuinely probably took like 20 plus minutes. But, we got to be able to tank this meteor, so... basically, Arctic Armor, because the meteor, if I recall correctly, is Fizz, Fire, Lightning, and Chaos damage. Cap, Chaos Res. We're Jug, so we're going to have pretty good Fizz mitigation. And then we're Enkindling, increased effect on Ruby and Topaz. And then we got the Karn Flask to make worms. We hit those worms, it guarantees we're going to have Fortify for the Meteor. So basically, Meteor comes, double Flask, pop the worms, hit the worms for Fort, and then Mano cast the Molten Shell. It's got Arctic Armor to help tank us for that, and then like some Pantheon Juice, was it Solaris, I believe, helps mitigate it quite a bit. So Meteor, not too bad. But we do need to make sure we run through that whole checklist every single time Meteor is cast, otherwise we will probably get one shot. 2 million DPS, this guy's gonna take fucking forever, so I'm in it for the long haul, mostly just playing pretty patient. I'm a little aggressive at the start because there's not much degen ground all over the place, but this fight is not Melee's friend. It just takes fucking forever. Also, Bone Shatter doesn't work very well in this fight. It's a very anti-Bone Shatter fight, so I think this fight's kind of a meme, but it's really not too bad long as you have an answer to basically everything he does. The die beams aren't really going to kill us unless we're on degen ground, and that's the main thing. We don't want to be on degen ground. We will basically die instantly if we are on degen ground and get hit by anything. Just counter the meteor with our tankiness, and then DPS when it looks like green light go, and then eventually we are going to retreat, and we are going to be playing like a giant pussy, and we will probably have like, what? I don't even know what it comes down to. Like 2 seconds of DPS time for every 1 minute, literally. It's something close to that. Like, out of every 60 seconds I get to maybe hit him for 2 seconds. So, pretty cool. This fight is doable with bad DPS. It's just, going to take fucking forever, and that's okay. At least we can beat it, because if the degen ground, say, infinitely kind of like covered the arena and it never stopped, this fight would require, I don't know, twice as much DPS, 4 million on this kind of a character, because yeah, we wouldn't have a answer for that. So that's Uber Awakener. Pretty fun fight, right? Cool. Alright, then we got the final Uber that I did. This one is the most RNG because it's just a randomly rolled mods on the bosses. You can read on the map mods or whatever. Mine was Frenzy Charge on hit. So you got 4 boss waves, basically 2 bosses each wave on Uber Cortex. So this first one is always a Fizz and a Cold guy. Fizz guy basically does nothing unless he has Fizz's extra map modifier, basically, but Cold guy does a bit of damage. That's why I'm just, I don't fucking hardly know what these guys do, I'm gonna be honest, but Cold guy, so I just got a Sapphire Flask here. Second wave has a Fire guy. Third wave has like a Lightning guy, I believe, and then the last wave, I don't even know what that guy does, honestly, just, I don't know, it's like Lightning or something, I honestly have no idea, but Cold guy, not too bad. He's killed me before when he has like some crazy damage mods, so I know he can scale pretty hard, but just kind of like stay out of the very obvious telegraphed attacks. This fire guy, I feel like I've ripped to the most of all of them. I don't even know like hardly what his attacks are. It's kind of hard to see with all like the visual stuff going on at the same time, but yeah, they still do a fair bit of damage. Just nice thing is they all have like some pretty significant physical attacks, and my character basically just kind of negates them completely because he's got, I don't even know, like 80k armor or something, endurance charge juggernaut thing. So I was pretty confident I would kill this one, but still trying to play proper, not doing anything too ridiculous. If you really want to pussy out in the fight, you can, you know, vol molten shell very often and then get your souls back, you know, log out, get your souls, then come back in. You can definitely do that, but I think this is mostly just try to, for Bone Shatter, just stack them up for cleave, and I play on a cast on damage taken molten shell here because honestly I don't know where the damage is fucking coming from most of the time. Your guess is as good as mine most of the time. Like, yeah, fire guy does some thing, laser fire thing that does a lot of damage, cool. Things are chunking me, I don't know. It's mostly just don't stand on the degen and DPS cleave down the bosses, dodge the very telegraphed attacks, but honestly a lot of the most telegraphed attacks in this fight don't even seem like they're the ones that are the rippiest. So that is basically how I killed all the Ubers with 2 million DPS. It's just kind of a thing, and realistically I could have had a fairly significantly worse character than this defensively and offensively and still probably kill all the Ubers. They're definitely doable. This wasn't like, I would say my success chance on this was probably around like, between all 7 Ubers, somewhere around like 80%, 90% maybe even, because I had Eternal Damnation, maybe like 80% without, 90% with Eternal Damnation. It's pretty hard to die with that item on most Ubers because most of their lethal mechanics are penetrating attacks, so Eternal Damnation, very, very good for killing Ubers, but it's not needed for sure in the base game. Pretty fun to do these. I don't really like, even though it's like technically a race event or whatever, I'm just like, I just like the puzzle feature. It's like solving a puzzle, how you can do it. I don't think Bone Shatter is by any means like a top tier bossing build. It's actually pretty dog shit in a lot of cases, but it definitely can get the job done. So pretty cool. Had a fun time just like kind of running through this and just, hey, throw a mediocre character at Bone Shatter. I think my axe was like 660 DPS. It's not even like good. And no Divergent Bone Shatter, which is like a huge DPS increase. I didn't like, by any means, this character is probably like 30% of what like a Bone Shatter character could be. Like his gear is nothing special. He's just pretty tanky. That was kind of like what I prioritized. It's kind of like a mindset of, if the boss does this, do I have an answer for it? And pretty much yes on every single thing for every single Uber boss. No matter what the Uber bosses do on this character, long as I play properly, and because my character is built the way that it is, I pretty much had an answer for every single thing that every single boss did. Had almost nothing to do with DPS, which is like a different mindset, I think, than what a lot of other players typically have. And it's also I think it's good practice because looking at Path of Exile 2 seems like they're going more in the heavier in the boss mechanic direction, so I'm definitely very curious to see kind of like where that goes in PoE 2, but doing these bosses, I've always enjoyed this kind of like problem-solving puzzle thing. I think one of the things that Path of Exile does better than any game I have ever played, I can confidently say that, is I think their defense system in this game is like the way they're like, there's so many different solutions to solving a problem, like from a defense perspective. It's really satisfying to go through that kind of process of problem solving. I enjoy it a lot, so that's basically just how I killed all the Ubers with this shit-ass character, so cool.